Imagine stumbling into a quiet, dimly lit library, the kind where the air smells of old books and whispers of forgotten stories, only to hear a soft, heartbreaking sob echoing from the corner. Your heart skips a beat, doesn't it? You're curious, maybe even a little nervous, wondering who's crying and why. That's exactly what happened to Ethan, a guy who thought he was just stopping by to grab a book for a rainy afternoon. But what he found instead was her, Lila, curled up in a corner, tears streaming down her face, clutching a tattered journal like it was her lifeline. Why was she crying? What was in that journal? And why, of all things, did Ethan decide to sit down and read her a love story he'd written himself? Hey, you watching this right now, I know you're already hooked on this emotional story, wondering how a chance encounter in a library could turn into something so heartwarming, so life-changing, maybe even a little mysterious. Stick with me, because I'm going to take you on a journey that'll answer every question swirling in your mind. And trust me, you won't want to click away until you know how this romance unfolds. This is a story about love, loss, and the kind of connection that feels like fate, and I'm here to share it with you like we're sitting down together, flipping through the pages of a novel that hits you right in the heart. So grab a cozy blanket, maybe a tissue or two, and let's dive into the moment that changed Ethan and Lila forever. You're probably wondering what kind of person walks into a library and ends up reading a love story to a stranger who's crying. Let's talk about Ethan first, because he's the kind of guy you can't help but root for. He's in his late 20s, a little rough around the edges, with a mop of dark hair that always looks like he just rolled out of bed. But there's something warm in his hazel eyes that makes you feel like you've known him forever. He's not a poet or a hopeless romantic. At least, he doesn't think he is. Ethan's a freelance writer, the kind who spends his days crafting articles about local coffee shops or the best hiking trails in New England, but deep down, he's been working on something much more personal. A novel, a love story he's poured his heart into, though he's never shown it to anyone. He's the kind of person who notices things, like the way sunlight filters through a window or the quiet pain in someone's sigh. That's what drew him to Lila that rainy afternoon in the library. He wasn't looking for her, not consciously, but when he heard her crying, something in him stirred, like a memory he couldn't quite place. You've felt that before, haven't you? That pull towards someone, that instinct that tells you they need you, even if you don't know why. I bet you're wondering what made Ethan stop, what made him sit down beside her instead of walking away like most people would. Hold that thought, because I promise you by the end of this story, you'll understand every choice he made, and it's going to hit you in a way that makes you believe in love again. Now, let's talk about Lila, because she's the heart of this mystery. Picture a woman in her mid-20s, with chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun, her glasses fogged up from tears she's trying to hide. She's sitting in the back of the library, tucked between shelves of dusty classics, her knees pulled to her chest, clutching that journal like it's the only thing keeping her grounded. Lila's not just crying. She's breaking, the kind of quiet, soul-deep sobbing that makes you ache just hearing it. You don't know why she's there, not yet, but you can feel the weight of her pain, can't you? It's the kind of pain that makes you wonder what could hurt someone so deeply in a place as peaceful as a library. Was it a breakup? A loss? Or something even more complicated? Something tied to that journal she's holding so tightly? I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will tell you this. Lila's story is one of those emotional stories that sticks with you. The kind that makes you think about your own life, your own heartbreaks, and the moments that changed you forever. You're going to want to know what brought her to that library, what made her cry, and why Ethan's love story felt like the answer to a question she didn't even know she was asking. So, keep watching, because I'm going to unravel this heartwarming tale piece by piece, and I promise, you'll be glad you stayed. Let's set the scene a little more, because the atmosphere of this story is everything. It's a chilly autumn afternoon in a small New England town, the kind of place where the leaves turn fiery red and gold, and the air smells like rain and possibility. The library itself is an old brick building, with tall windows that let in slanted beams of light, casting shadows across rows of books that seem to hold 1,000 secrets. It's the kind of place where you go to escape, to lose yourself in someone else's story, but for Lila, it's a refuge from something she can't face. The rain is pattering against the windows, soft but steady, creating a rhythm that feels like it's holding the world together. Ethan walks in, his jacket damp from the drizzle, his notebook tucked under his arm, expecting nothing more than a quiet hour to work on his writing. But then he hears it, that soft, muffled sob from the back of the library. It's not loud, not dramatic, but it's enough to stop him in his tracks. You know that feeling, don't you? When something small, something unexpected, shifts your whole day, maybe your whole life. That's what this moment is for Ethan. A pivot point, a chance encounter that feels like it was written in the stars. You're probably imagining yourself in his shoes right now, wondering what you'd do if you heard someone crying in a library. Would you walk away? Or would you, like Ethan, feel that tug to do something, to say something, to offer a piece of yourself to a stranger? That's the beauty of this story. It's not just about Ethan and Lila. It's about you too, and the choices you make when life hands you a moment like this. I want to talk to you directly for a second, because I know you're invested now. You're sitting there, maybe on your couch, maybe scrolling through YouTube looking for something to make you feel something real. You clicked on this video because you love a good love story, a heartwarming tale that makes you believe in connection, in second chances, in the kind of romance that feels like it could happen to you. I get it. I'm just like you. I love stories that make my heart race, that make me tear up and smile at the same time. That's why I'm so excited to share this with you, because this isn't just a story, it's a journey we're going on together. You're not just watching Ethan and Lila, you're living this moment with them, feeling their hopes, their fears, their quiet moments of courage. I'm going to make you a promise right now. If you stick with me, if you keep watching, I'm going to give you the answers you're craving. You'll find out why Lila was crying, what was in that journal, and why Ethan's love story was exactly what she needed to hear. But more than that, you're going to feel something. Maybe it's hope, maybe it's love, maybe it's that spark that reminds you why stories matter. So, don't click away, okay? Stay with me, because this emotional story is about to get even better, and I'm here to guide you through every twist and turn. Let's dive a little deeper into the themes of this story, because they're what make it so universal, so relatable. At its core, this is a story about connection, about how two strangers can find each other in the most unexpected places and change each other's lives in ways they never imagined. It's about vulnerability, about the courage it takes to open your heart to someone, even when you're scared, even when you're hurting. Ethan's not just reading a love story to Lila, he's offering her a piece of himself, a piece of his truth, and that's a kind of bravery we all crave, isn't it? You've been there, I bet, standing at the edge of a moment, wondering if you should take a risk, say something, reach out. This story is also about healing, about how the right words, the right person, can stitch up the broken parts of you, even if just for a moment. And there's a mystery here, too, because you're probably wondering what's in Lila's journal. What's got her so torn up that she's crying in a library? I'm not going to tell you yet, but I will say this. That journal holds a secret, one that ties her to Ethan in ways neither of them could have predicted. You're going to want to know what it is, and I promise if you keep watching, you'll get the answer. This is the kind of heartwarming story that makes you believe in fate, in serendipity, in the idea that some moments are meant to happen. Let's talk about the conflict, because every good story needs one, and this one's got layers. On the surface, it's about Ethan and Lila, two strangers brought together by chance, but there's so much more going on beneath the surface. Ethan's got his own struggles. He's been wrestling with his novel for years, pouring his heart into a love story he's too afraid to share with the world. He's got doubts, insecurities, the kind of quiet fears that make you wonder if you're good enough, if your dreams are worth chasing. You've felt that, haven't you? That nagging voice that says maybe you should give up. Play it safe. For Ethan, sitting down with Lila is a leap of faith, a moment where he has to decide whether to keep his story hidden or share it with someone who might need it. And Lila, her conflict is even more mysterious. She's carrying something heavy, something tied to that journal, something that's got her unraveling in a library of all places. Is it a lost love? A regret? A secret she's been keeping from everyone? Maybe even herself? You're dying to know, I can tell, and that's exactly why you need to keep watching. This isn't just a romance, it's a puzzle, and every piece you uncover will make you feel more connected to Ethan and Lila, more invested in their journey. I want to take a moment to connect with you again, because you're the reason I'm telling this story. You're out there, maybe going through your own struggles, your own heartbreaks, your own moments of wondering if life has something beautiful waiting for you. Maybe you've had a day where you felt like Lila, like the weight of the world was too much, and all you could do was find a quiet corner to let it out. Or maybe you're like Ethan, carrying a dream you're afraid to share, a piece of yourself you're not sure the world will understand. This story is for you, because it's about those moments, the ones that feel small but end up being monumental. I'm not just here to tell you a love story. I'm here to remind you that your story matters, too. You clicked on this video for a reason, and I'm going to make sure you leave feeling something. Maybe inspired, maybe hopeful, maybe just a little less alone. So, don't hit that back button, okay? Stay with me, because we're about to get to the part where Ethan sits down next to Lila, opens his notebook, and starts reading. You're going to want to hear what happens next, trust me. Let's set up that moment, because it's where everything changes. Ethan's standing there, his notebook heavy in his hands, his heart pounding because he knows he's about to do something crazy. He doesn't know Lila, doesn't know her story, but something about her tears, her vulnerability, makes him feel like he has to act. He walks over, his footsteps soft against the creaky wooden floor, and he sits down a few feet away, close enough to be there but not so close that it feels intrusive. Lila looks up, startled, her eyes red and puffy, her journal clutched even tighter. There's a moment of silence, heavy with possibility, where neither of them knows what to say. You can feel it, can't you? That electric tension, that question of what happens next. Ethan could walk away, pretend he didn't see her, but instead, he does something unexpected. He opens his notebook, clears his throat, and says, I don't know why you're crying, but I wrote something that might help. And then he starts reading. A love story, his love story, the one he's been too scared to share with anyone. Why does he do it? What's in those pages that makes him think it's what Lila needs? And what's in her journal that's got her so broken? You're on the edge of your seat now, aren't you? You want to know what happens when Ethan's words fill the air, when Lila's tears start to slow, when two strangers start to become something more. Don't go anywhere because the answer's coming, and it's going to be a moment you won't forget. Ethan's voice was soft but steady, filling the quiet corner of the library with words that felt like they were meant for this moment, as if the universe had conspired to bring him and Lila together in this heartwarming, unexpected encounter. His notebook, worn at the edges from years of scribbling, lay open in his hands, and the love story he was reading wasn't just a story. It was a piece of his soul, a tapestry of hopes and dreams he'd never dared to share. Lila, still clutching her journal, had stopped sobbing, her breath catching as she listened, her eyes fixed on Ethan like he was a lighthouse in a storm. You're probably wondering what kind of love story could hold someone like Lila, someone so broken by whatever secret she's carrying, in such a spell. I get it. You're hooked on this emotional story, aren't you? You want to know what Ethan's words are doing to her, how they're weaving into the cracks of her heart, and what's in that journal that's got her so unraveled. I'm right there with you, sitting on the edge of my seat, wanting to peel back the layers of this mystery. Let's keep going together, because this romance is about to get even more layered, with subplots and perspectives that'll make you feel like you're living this moment with Ethan and Lila, wondering what twist of fate brought them to this library on this rainy afternoon. Let's step back for a moment and get to know Ethan a little better, because his story is just as much a part of this life-changing encounter as Lila's. Ethan grew up in this small New England town, the kind of place where everyone knows your name but not your dreams. His mom was a schoolteacher, his dad a mechanic, and they raised him to be practical, to keep his feet on the ground. But Ethan was always a dreamer, the kid who'd sneak a flashlight under the covers to read novels until dawn, who'd scribble stories in the margins of his math homework. Writing was his escape, his way of making sense of a world that sometimes felt too small for him. By his late 20s, he'd carved out a modest life as a freelancer, but his real passion was the novel he'd been working on for years. A love story about two people who find each other against all odds. A story he was too afraid to finish because it felt too close to his own heart. You've been there, haven't you? Holding on to a dream that feels so big, so personal, that sharing it with the world seems like bearing your soul. That's why Ethan's in the library today. Not just to work, but to wrestle with that fear, to decide if his story is worth telling. When he heard Lila's sobs, it wasn't just curiosity that stopped him. It was a feeling, deep and unexplainable, that maybe his words could mean something to someone else. You're probably wondering what's in his story that makes it so special, why he chose to read it to a stranger. Hold on to that question, because it's a piece of this mystery that's going to keep you glued to this video. Lila's perspective adds another layer to this emotional story, and it's one that's shrouded in intrigue. She wasn't always the kind of person who'd break down in a library, surrounded by strangers and dusty books. Growing up, Lila was the girl everyone noticed. Bright, witty, with a laugh that could light up a room. She studied literature in college, dreaming of becoming a writer herself, but life had other plans. A few years ago, something happened. Something that changed her, dimmed that spark, and left her with that journal she's clutching like a lifeline. You can feel the weight of it, can't you? That journal isn't just paper and ink. It's a Pandora's box of memories, regrets, maybe even a secret she's been running from. She came to the library today to escape, to hide in the quiet, but the words in that journal followed her, spilling out in tears she couldn't hold back. When Ethan sat down and started reading, it was like a lifeline she didn't expect. A love story that felt like it was speaking directly to her pain. You're probably imagining what it's like to be Lila right now, hearing a stranger's words cut through your grief, making you wonder if maybe, just maybe, there's hope on the other side. That's the power of this moment, and it's why you're still here, watching, waiting to see what happens next in this heartwarming tale. Let's introduce a subplot that adds a new thread to this romance, because there's more going on in this library than just Ethan and Lila's encounter. Across the room, unnoticed by either of them, is Clara, the librarian who's been watching the whole scene unfold. Clara's in her 60s, with silver hair pulled into a neat bun and eyes that have seen more stories than the books on her shelves. She's worked in this library for decades, and she's got a knack for noticing the moments that matter, the ones that change people's lives. Clara's got her own story, one she keeps tucked away like a well-worn novel. Years ago, she lost someone she loved, and the library became her sanctuary, her way of holding on to the past while helping others find their futures. When she saw Lila crying, she wanted to approach, to offer a kind word, but then Ethan stepped in, and something about the way he sat down, the way he opened his notebook, made Clara pause. She's watching them now, her heart stirring with a mix of nostalgia and hope, because she knows a life-changing moment when she sees one. You're probably wondering what Clara's story has to do with Ethan and Lila, and I'll give you a hint. Her perspective is going to add a layer of mystery that ties this whole tale together. Keep that in mind, because Clara's not just a bystander. She's a piece of this puzzle, and her story is going to make you see this romance in a whole new light. The tension in the library is building, and it's not just because of Ethan's words or Lila's tears. There's something about the way their stories are colliding, like two rivers meeting, that feels bigger than either of them. Ethan's love story, the one he's reading, isn't just fiction. It's drawn from his own life, from a moment years ago when he loved someone and lost them, though he's not ready to admit that to himself, let alone to Lila. Every word he reads is laced with his own pain, his own longing, and Lila can feel it, even if she doesn't know why. Her journal, meanwhile, holds a different kind of truth. A letter, maybe, or a confession, something she wrote to someone she can't reach anymore. You're dying to know what's in that journal, aren't you? I can feel it, that itch to understand what's got Lila so broken, what's making her listen to Ethan like his words are the only thing keeping her afloat. I'm not going to tell you yet, but I will say this. The connection between Ethan's story and Lila's journal is no coincidence. There's a thread tying them together, a secret that's going to unravel as this emotional story unfolds. You're probably leaning closer to the screen now, imagining Ethan's voice, Lila's eyes, the quiet hum of the library holding them together. That's exactly where I want you, because this love story is about to take a turn you won't see coming. Let's add another perspective to deepen the intrigue, because this story isn't just about what's happening in the library. It's about the lives that led Ethan and Lila to this moment. Back in Ethan's past, there's a woman named Sarah, someone he loved deeply, someone who inspired the love story he's reading to Lila. Sarah was his college sweetheart, the kind of person who made every day feel like an adventure, but something happened. A misunderstanding, a choice, a moment they couldn't come back from. Ethan's never talked about it, not even to his closest friends, but it's there in his novel, hidden in the metaphors and the longing. Reading to Lila is the first time he's let those words out into the world, and it's terrifying, exhilarating, like standing on the edge of a cliff. You know that feeling, don't you? When you share something so personal it feels like you're giving away a piece of yourself. For Lila, there's a shadow in her past, too. A person, maybe a lover, maybe a family member, who's tied to that journal. The way she's holding it, the way her fingers trace the edges, makes you think it's more than just words on a page. It's a promise, a regret, something she's been carrying for too long. You're probably trying to piece it together, wondering how Ethan and Lila's pasts are going to collide, how their stories are going to weave together in this heartwarming, mysterious romance. I'm not going to give it away, but I promise you, every question you have is leading somewhere, and it's going to be worth the wait. The library itself is almost a character in this story, adding its own layer of mystery and charm. It's not just a backdrop, it's a place where stories come to life, where people find solace, answers, or sometimes just a quiet place to fall apart. The rain outside is heavier now, drumming against the windows, creating a cocoon around Ethan and Lila as he reads. Clara, still watching from her desk, notices the way the light shifts, casting soft shadows across Lila's face as she listens. There's something almost magical about this moment, like the library knows these two were meant to meet. You've felt that before, haven't you? That sense that some places, some moments, are charged with meaning, like the universe is whispering to you. Clara's seen it before. Other moments, other people, Connections that started right here among the books. She's thinking about her own love story now, about the letters she used to write, the ones she never sent. You're probably wondering if Clara's going to step in, if she's going to say something to Ethan or Lila, or if her story is going to stay in the background, a quiet echo of their own. That's another piece of this puzzle, and it's going to add a layer of depth to this emotional story that'll make you feel like you're part of something bigger. As Ethan keeps reading, his voice growing more confident, Lila's tears start to dry, but the tension between them is electric. She's not just listening. She's searching his words, looking for something, though she doesn't know what. There's a moment where their eyes meet, and it's like time stops, like the library, the rain, the world outside all fade away. You can feel it, can't you? That spark, that unspoken question of whether this is just a moment or the start of something more. But then Lila's hand tightens on her journal, and Ethan falters, just for a second, as if he's remembered something painful. What's stopping them from fully opening up? What's holding them back from turning this chance encounter into something deeper? You're probably thinking about your own life now, about the moments when you held back, when you didn't say what you really wanted to. That's what makes this story so relatable, so life-changing. It's not just about Ethan and Lila. It's about all of us, about the chances we take and the ones we miss. And right now, in this quiet library, something's about to happen. Something that's going to shift this love story in a way you won't expect. What does Lila do when Ethan pauses? Does she speak, share her own story, or does she pull away, keeping her secrets locked in that journal? You're going to have to keep watching, because this heartwarming, mysterious moment is about to change everything. And I'm not letting you go until you see what happens next. The air in the library seemed to hold its breath as Ethan's voice faltered, his words hanging between him and Lila like a fragile thread stretched too tight. Lila's eyes, still glistening with the remnants of her tears, locked onto his, and for a moment, it felt like they were the only two people in the world, the rain outside fading to a distant murmur. Her fingers tightened around her journal, the leather cover creased from her grip, and you could almost feel the weight of whatever secret it held pressing down on her. You're probably sitting there, heart racing, wondering what's going to happen next in this emotional story, aren't you? I know I am, because this moment, this quiet electric pause, is where everything starts to shift, where this heartwarming romance takes a turn you won't see coming. Ethan's love story, the one he's reading from his worn notebook, is no longer just a story. It's a bridge between their hearts, but it's also stirring something in Lila, something that makes her breath catch, her eyes widen, as if his words are unlocking a memory she's tried to bury. You're dying to know what's in that journal, what's got her so shaken, and why Ethan's story feels like it's speaking directly to her soul. Stick with me, because this life-changing encounter is about to hit you with a twist that'll make you rethink everything you thought you knew about this mystery. Ethan swallowed hard, his voice catching as he read a line about a couple standing in the rain, promising to find each other no matter what. It was a line he'd written years ago, inspired by Sarah, the woman who'd once been his everything, and the weight of that memory made his hands tremble. Lila noticed, her gaze softening, and for the first time she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why does it feel like you know me?" she asked, her words cutting through the silence like a knife. Ethan froze, his notebook nearly slipping from his hands, because her question wasn't just curious. It was heavy, loaded with a meaning he couldn't grasp. You're probably feeling that same jolt right now, wondering how a stranger's love story could feel so personal to Lila, how two people who've never met could share this kind of connection. That's when the twist hits, and it's a big one. Lila slowly opens her journal, her hand shaking, and reveals a single page. A letter, written in a handwriting that looks eerily familiar to Ethan. It's not just any letter. It's addressed to someone named E, and the first line reads, "I'm sorry I left you in the rain." You can feel the air shift, can't you? That moment when everything you thought you understood about this romance flips upside down. Is it possible that Lila and Ethan aren't strangers at all? Could her journal hold a connection to his past, to Sarah, to the love story he's been carrying all these years? I'm not going to answer that yet, but I promise you, this mystery is about to get deeper, and you're going to want to keep watching to see where this heartwarming tale leads. Let's dive into that twist a little more, because it's raising the stakes in a way that makes this emotional story impossible to look away from. Ethan's staring at the letter in Lila's journal, his heart pounding so loud he's sure she can hear it. The handwriting, the words, they're like a ghost from his past, pulling him back to a night 5 years ago when Sarah walked away, leaving him standing in the rain outside a coffee shop, her final words echoing in his mind. He'd written his novel to make sense of that loss, to imagine a world where love could come back, but seeing that letter in Lila's hands makes him question everything. Did Lila know Sarah? Was she a friend, a sister, someone tied to the woman who broke his heart? Or is there something even more impossible at play, something that feels like fate or a cruel trick of the universe? Lila's watching him now, her eyes searching his face for answers, and you can tell she's just as confused, just as shaken. Her journal isn't just a collection of thoughts, it's a map of her pain, and that letter is the centerpiece, a clue to why she's here, crying in a library, listening to a stranger's love story like it's her own. You're probably leaning closer to the screen, trying to piece it together, wondering how this life-changing moment could tie two strangers to a shared past. That's the beauty of this story. It's not just a romance. It's a puzzle, and every piece you uncover pulls you deeper into the mystery. Across the library, Clara, the silver-haired librarian, is still watching. Her hands folded on her desk, her eyes sharp with recognition. She's seen moments like this before, moments where the library seems to weave people's lives together. But this one feels different, heavier. Clara's own subplot is starting to surface, adding another layer to this heartwarming tale. Decades ago, she'd written letters of her own, love letters to a man she lost to time and circumstance, letters she kept hidden in a box under her desk. Seeing Lila's journal, hearing Ethan's story, stirs something in her. A memory of a promise she made to herself to help others find what she couldn't. Clara's not just a bystander. She's starting to wonder if she's meant to do something, to say something that could change the course of Ethan and Lila's story. You're probably wondering what Clara knows, what she's holding back, and whether her own love story has a role to play in this unfolding drama. I'll give you a hint. Clara's seen that handwriting before, not in Lila's journal, but in a letter that passed through the library years ago, left in a book like a message in a bottle. It's another piece of the mystery, another thread that's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about this emotional story. Keep that in mind, because Clara's about to become more important than you realize. The main conflict is escalating now, and it's not just about whether Ethan and Lila will connect. It's about whether they can face the truths buried in their pasts. Ethan's love story, the one he's reading, is starting to feel like a confession. Each word peeling back a layer of his own grief, his own regrets. Lila's letter, the one addressed to E, is like a mirror, reflecting something he can't ignore, but he's terrified to ask her about it, terrified to know if it's connected to Sarah. Lila, meanwhile, is wrestling with her own fears. That letter wasn't meant to be seen, not by Ethan, not by anyone, and showing it to him feels like betraying a promise she made to someone long ago. Yet, there's something about Ethan's voice, his story, that makes her want to trust him, to let him in, even if it means opening a wound she's spent years trying to heal. You can feel the tension building, can't you? That push and pull between wanting to know the truth and being afraid of what it might mean. It's the kind of emotional story that hits you right in the heart, making you think about your own secrets, your own moments of courage or hesitation. You're probably wondering what happens when Ethan reads the next line of his story, whether Lila will tell him who E is, or if they'll both pull back, too scared to face the truth. That's where this romance gets even more gripping, because the stakes are higher than ever, and the twist has only just begun to unravel. Let's add another layer to the subplot with Sarah, because her shadow is looming larger now, tying Ethan and Lila's stories together in ways neither of them can fully grasp. Back in college, Sarah wasn't just Ethan's girlfriend. She was his muse, the one who made him believe he could be a writer, the one who filled his world with color. But their breakup wasn't just a fight or a fading spark. It was a moment that shattered them both, leaving questions neither could answer. Ethan's novel is his way of rewriting that ending, of imagining a world where love doesn't slip away. But seeing Lila's letter makes him wonder if Sarah's story isn't over. Could Lila have known her? Could the letter be from Sarah, or about her? Or is it something even more complicated? You're probably trying to connect the dots, imagining how a love story from Ethan's past could collide with Lila's journal in a small-town library. That's the kind of mystery that keeps you hooked, isn't it? The kind that makes you want to keep watching, to see if this heartwarming encounter is fate or coincidence. Lila's past is just as tangled. Her letter hints at a loss, a goodbye she never got to say, and Ethan's story is stirring memories she's tried to forget. You're probably feeling that ache in your chest, that need to know how their stories intertwine, and I'm right there with you, wanting to see where this life-changing moment leads. The library's atmosphere is almost suffocating now, the rain outside pounding harder, the shadows deepening as Ethan and Lila sit frozen in that moment of revelation. Clara's watching, her heart heavy with her own memories, wondering if she should step in, if her own story holds a key to theirs. The letter in Lila's journal is like a bomb waiting to go off, and Ethan's next words could either defuse it or set everything ablaze. You're probably imagining yourself in that library, feeling the weight of that silence, wondering what you'd do if you were Ethan, staring at a letter that might rewrite your entire past. Or maybe you're Lila, holding on to a secret that's tearing you apart, wondering if a stranger's love story could be the answer you've been searching for. This is why you're still here, why you can't look away from this emotional story. It's not just about them. It's about you, about the moments in your life when you stood at a crossroads, unsure whether to leap or run. And right now, as Ethan takes a deep breath, his finger tracing the next line in his notebook, something's about to happen. Something that'll push this romance to the edge of its climax. Does he keep reading, risking everything? Does Lila stop him, revealing the truth about her letter? Or does Clara, with her quiet wisdom, step in and change the course of this mystery? You're not going to believe what happens next, so don't you dare click away, because this heartwarming, life-changing twist is about to shake everything up, and you're going to want to see it unfold. The library felt like a pressure cooker, the rain outside hammering the windows as Ethan's finger hovered over the next line in his notebook. His heart pounding with the weight of Lila's letter and the words staring up at him. "I'm sorry I left you in the rain." Lila's eyes were locked on his, wide and searching, as if she was waiting for him to unravel the mystery that had brought them to this moment. "You're right there with them, aren't you?" Your pulse is racing, your mind spinning with questions about how this emotional story could possibly resolve. How a letter in Lila's journal could feel so personal to Ethan, a stranger she's only just met. I know you're desperate to know the truth, about the letter, about Ethan's love story, about why this heartwarming encounter feels like fate. I'm not going to keep you waiting much longer, because this is it, the climax of this life-changing romance, where every piece of the puzzle falls into place, only to be shaken up by one final twist that'll leave you breathless. Ethan took a shaky breath, his voice barely steady, and started reading again, but before he could get through the next sentence, Lila reached out, her hand trembling, and touched his arm. "Stop," she whispered, her voice raw with emotion. "That letter. It's about you." You can feel the world tilt, can't you? That moment when everything you thought you knew about this love story shifts, and you realize Ethan and Lila aren't strangers at all. Stick with me, because this resolution is going to hit you right in the heart, and it's going to be a moment you'll never forget. Lila's words hung in the air like a thunderclap, and Ethan's notebook slipped from his hands, landing on the library floor with a soft thud. He stared at her, his mind racing back to that rainy night 5 years ago when Sarah walked away, leaving him with nothing but questions and a broken heart. "What do you mean, it's about me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, afraid to hear the answer but unable to look away. Lila's hands shook as she opened her journal fully, revealing the letter in its entirety. It wasn't just addressed to it was addressed to Ethan, her handwriting unmistakable now that he saw it clearly. She explained, her voice breaking, that she was Sarah's younger sister, the one Ethan had never met because Sarah had kept her family life private during their college years. The letter was written after Sarah's sudden death in a car accident 3 years ago, a tragedy that had shattered Lila's world and left her carrying the weight of her sister's regrets. Sarah had written about Ethan in her own journals, confessing to Lila that leaving him was her biggest mistake, that she'd loved him but was too afraid to stay, too young to handle the depth of their connection. Lila had found those journals after Sarah's death and wrote the letter to Ethan as a way to process her grief, never intending to send it, never imagining she'd meet him in a library, hearing his love story that mirrored Sarah's own words. You're probably reeling right now, feeling the ache of this revelation, the way it ties Ethan and Lila together through loss and love. This is the kind of emotional story that makes you believe in second chances, in the way the universe brings people together to heal old wounds. The climax hit like a wave as Ethan processed Lila's words, his eyes filling with tears as he realized the love story he'd been reading wasn't just inspired by Sarah, it was, in some ways, her story too, woven into his novel through memories he couldn't let go. Lila's letter was her attempt to say what Sarah never could, to apologize for the pain of that night in the rain, to tell Ethan he was loved, even if it was too late. But it wasn't too late, not entirely, because Lila was here, sitting across from him, her own grief mirroring his, their shared loss creating a bond neither could have predicted. Ethan reached for the letter, his fingers brushing against Lila's, and in that touch, there was a spark, not just of romance, but of understanding, of two people finding solace in each other's pain. You can feel it, can't you? That heartwarming moment when two broken hearts start to mend, when a chance encounter in a library becomes something life-changing. But the tension wasn't gone yet, because Lila pulled back, her eyes clouded with doubt. "I didn't come here to find you," she said, her voice trembling. "I came to let her go." She was talking about Sarah, about the journal, about the guilt she'd carried for not being able to save her sister, for not sending that letter sooner. Ethan wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, that this moment was enough. But before he could, Clara, the librarian, stepped forward, her presence like a quiet anchor in the storm. Clara's subplot, which had been simmering in the background, now took center stage, tying the entire story together in a way that felt like fate. She'd been listening, watching, her own memories stirred by Ethan and Lila's encounter. Clearing her throat, she spoke softly, her voice carrying the weight of her years. "I knew your sister," she said to Lila, her words landing like a bombshell. "You're probably gasping right now, wondering how Clara fits into this mystery, how a librarian could hold the final piece of this puzzle." Clara explained that Sarah used to come to the library years ago, leaving notes and books for someone she loved. Notes Clara had found and kept, hoping one day to return them to their rightful owner. She reached under her desk, pulling out a small weathered envelope, and handed it to Ethan. Inside was a note from Sarah, written just before her accident, confessing her love for him, her regret for leaving, and her hope that he'd find happiness. It was the closure Ethan had never gotten, the answer to the questions that had haunted him for years. But here's the final twist, the one that'll leave you in awe. The note also mentioned Lila, Sarah's wish that her sister would find someone who could understand her pain, someone like Ethan. It was as if Sarah had known somehow that this moment would happen, that her sister and her lost love would meet in this library, brought together by a love story and a letter. You're probably tearing up now, feeling the weight of this heartwarming, life-changing twist, the way it makes you believe in something bigger than coincidence. The resolution came gently, like the rain slowing outside, as Ethan and Lila sat together, reading Sarah's note, their hands brushing against the paper, their hearts open in a way they hadn't been in years. They talked, really talked about Sarah, about their losses, about the love story Ethan had written that felt like a bridge between past and present. Lila admitted she'd been running from her grief, carrying Sarah's journals as a way to keep her close, but meeting Ethan, hearing his story, made her realize she could let go without losing her sister. Ethan, in turn, found the courage to finish his novel, to share it with the world, because Lila's presence, her connection to Sarah, made him believe his words mattered. Clara watched them, a quiet smile on her face, her own story resolved in a small way. She'd finally delivered Sarah's note, fulfilling a promise she'd made to herself years ago. You're probably feeling that warmth in your chest, that sense of closure mixed with hope, the kind of ending that makes this romance so unforgettable. But it wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning, because Ethan and Lila didn't walk away as strangers. They exchanged numbers, promising to keep talking, to maybe write a new story together, one that wasn't about loss but about healing, about love in all its forms. Let's reflect for a moment, because this emotional story isn't just about Ethan and Lila, it's about you too. It's about the moments in your life when you felt lost, when you've carried regrets or secrets, and the unexpected connections that helped you find your way. Maybe you've had your own library moment, a chance encounter that changed everything, or maybe you're still waiting for it. This love story reminds us that life is messy, full of pain and surprises, but it's also full of heartwarming possibilities, of twists that make you believe in fate. Ethan and Lila's journey shows us that love isn't just romantic. It's the courage to share your story, to listen to someone else's, to find meaning in the spaces between. Clara's role, her quiet wisdom, reminds us that we're all part of each other's stories, even when we don't realize it. You're probably thinking about your own life now, about the people who've shaped you, the moments that felt like destiny. That's the takeaway from this life-changing tale. Every encounter, every word, every tear can lead to something beautiful if you're brave enough to let it. So, as you sit there, maybe wiping away a tear or smiling at the thought of Ethan and Lila walking out of that library together, hold on to this feeling. This mystery, this romance, this heartwarming story. It's a reminder that love in all its forms is always worth chasing, always worth sharing. And who knows? Maybe your next moment is waiting, just around the corner, in a library or a coffee shop or a rainy afternoon.